Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Leanna Senior Transition Support, specialists in downsizing and seniors' residences.
That we know that anxiety is not just experienced by adults, young adults, teenagers. Also, we're seeing anxiety in kids as young as 2, 3, and so it's very disconcerting. In fact, there's some statistics that talk about 1 in 10 children have an anxiety disorder, which means that there's more than 1 in 10 that are experiencing anxiety. And that's ages 3 to 17. So this is a real prevalent issue.
Yeah, it is real, Corey, for sure. I think we're seeing that, and it's happening, I think, at a younger age. Not a statistic that's usually out there, but it is a very frightening statistic. And I think all of us as parents, grandparents, have to be aware of that as well, and especially at a young age where they're not able to process everything. And, and I think as parents, they look up to us. And if the parents are anxious, and let's face it, parents,
That's right.
all of us are a little bit more anxious these days, they feed off of that as well. So, that's why we were really pleased to have our next guest and give us some tips and advice. And we've had Shoshana on the show before, but go ahead, Corey, and tell us.
So it's my great pleasure to welcome back Shoshana Chaim, who is a former kindergarten teacher who has turned wellness expert. She's the founder of Plant Trainers, which hosts the Plant Trainers podcast, and it works with Advanced Health Biotechnology Company. So she's really got her lots of a plethora of information. But she's on today because she has a new book coming out, and it's really coming out quite soon. It's called I Am a Peaceful Goldfish, and it teaches children the importance of mindfulness and taking big breaths in a fun and imaginative way. She lives in Toronto with her husband and 2 children, and we are so pleased to have you back. Welcome back to Life Unrehearsed, Shoshana.
Thank you, Corey. Hi, Matt. I'm grateful to be here with you guys today.
Hi, Shoshana. Great to be with you again.
So I had the pleasure of having a pre-interview, so I know some of this, but I would like our listeners to know, why did you write the book? What inspired it?
Well, really, I was inspired in a moment when, after school, my son was having a hard time. He was having a little bit of a meltdown, and his breathing was really, really shallow, and it was hard to get him to connect with his body and even think rationally and speak rationally, and I couldn't, as a parent, give him a tool in that moment to calm down. And being a kindergarten teacher, elementary school teacher, I always reach for books, right? You're going on a field trip, you read a book, grandma's coming to visit, you read a book, all of these things. But there was no book that I was able to reach to on my shelf or even on the internet to teach him to take a deep breath, a big calming breath. And of course, we breathe all day long. That's how we stay alive. But when you take that moment to take that deep breath, you almost hesitate on the first one because your body's not used to it. And we really need to teach this to children. And I myself had been struggling before with postpartum depression, stress, anxiety, and I wanted more for my children. And I wanted them to learn the tools that I spent in my later years. I wanted them to have that as a skill from a younger age.
Yeah, you talk about tools, Shoshana, and it's interesting because tools can be more some mental tools and exercises, in this case, some physical tools. But in general, there is, I think, a lack of tools out there to help kids. And I guess that's what you saw as you were trying to research the market to help your own situation.
Absolutely. I wanted to help my own situation, and then as I looked deeper, I realized, some of the stats that you were talking about before, and 1% of children ages 1 to 4, their parents said that they had fair or poor mental health, and that raises up to 20% with teenagers, and this is all post-COVID, so I realized that this needed to be put out there, and I'd seen it within my own students as well.
So that's Shoshana Chaim. She's the author of I Am a Peaceful Goldfish. It's a book that teaches the children the importance of mindfulness. Can you tell me a little bit about what the goal of the book is?
The goal of the book, like I said, is really to give children the opportunity to learn some of these grounding, some of these mindfulness, some of these stress relief tools as a younger person, to learn them in a time not. But when a child's already having a meltdown, that's not the time to teach them to take deep breaths. It's when they're in a good mood. It's when they're happy. So the book is not parent-led. It's child-led through the pictures of the book, through the words of the book, for children to have fun, use their imagination, and without even realizing it, learn a skill that will have them interact with these events that come up in their life that much better, so that they can make better choices, so that they can say better things, so that they can feel better about themselves, and so that, like so many of us who have only found mindfulness and meditation and relaxation skills in our later years and had to undo so much of the past, give them the opportunity to thrive even better than we have.
You know, Shoshana, I really thought the way you approached the book was very, very smart, because you put it in the perspective of the children, particularly with the characters. The book is called I Am a Peaceful Goldfish. Right away, that's okay. That's an intriguing title, but you've got goldfish, you've got dragons, pinwheels, and how is this approach, how can that help children with what you're trying to achieve by, the calming effects and the breathing? How is that helping them?
Well, it's really making that mind-body connection. It's bringing down their nervous system so that they can connect and they can think better and they can react better. But I wanted to have lots of different objects and animals that every child can relate to. So an auditory child might relate to the wind chimes, and a kinesthetic child might like being the elephant, and a really imaginative child might like the fiery breath of the dragon. So I wanted to have a variety of different objects or characters in the book, so that every child can kind of walk away with their own experience from it, and every child could kind of find themselves in it.
Can you talk a little bit about the characters, a little bit more about, because the goldfish, the dragon, can you expand on that?
Sure. So essentially, the children are having a bad day because all the children things happen to them, right? Their ice cream falls on the floor, their page rips, the tail falls off of the toy, and they're kind of moody, and then their eyes caught by the goldfish in the bowl, and they're like, I wish I could be just as peaceful as those goldfish. And then they have an idea. So, they take a big breath in, and as they breathe out, they pretend that they're the goldfish. And on the next page, they become the goldfish in the illustrations. And that's really peaceful for them right there. But then some kids are more energetic, and some kids are quieter, and some kids have dreams. So, whether it's the little dandelions flying through the air or what have you, different children are able to connect. But there's an older boy and a younger girl, and one of the things that I also wanted to, and I wrote this book 6 years ago, so many people are saying to me, wow, with the pandemic, you've really monopolized, you've really looked at the opportunity and written this book. But I wrote this book 6 years ago. It's just coming out now. So the other thing I really wanted is for every child to be able to open up the pages and see themselves. Having, white children, working in a white school, my children were able to see themselves in books all the time. I wanted everyone to be able to connect with the characters. So we do have different colors in the book, but when you open up the front cover of the book, you can see that there's children from all over the world as well. So that was really important for me too, for everyone to be able to open up the book and take the skills away with them, whether they recognize that or not.
It's Shoshana Chaim here on Life Unrehearsed with Corey and Matt. And Shoshana, you do much more than this wonderful book. This is your first book, and I think we're going to expand the conversation a little bit more, so us adults can learn a bit more from some of your experience. And by the way, you have some real good fans here in Montreal. Texts are coming in. So proud of you, Shoshana. Love her from Beta, by the way. That comes in. But when we come back, we have to head out to traffic, Shoshana, but you've got tons of experience of what we call mindfulness. I personally, I don't know what mindfulness means. I can't stand the word. But what I do know is that it calms the nerves. It calms the mind. And you're going to show us how we can all benefit from clearing our minds through mindfulness meditation. I can't wait. I think all of our listeners can use a little bit of calming the minds these days in this pandemic.
Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Flora Lee Senior Residences. Always there for you. Safe, reassuring, and comforting. We call it home.
But you do so much more than that. So we wanted to get a little bit of tools and tricks about mindfulness meditation so we can all be as zen as you.
Thank you. Yeah. So, Matt, what does mindfulness mean? I think it means something different for everybody, and I do think that's a buzzword that might be, on some people's nerves, or people really love it. But for me, it's about being in the moment and having I don't want to say control of your body and your mind, but allowing your body and your mind to know what's going on and be communicating with each other. So there's so many things that you can do in advance to kind of keep things together as those difficult situations come up, but also that you could do in the moment. So one of the things that I like to do in advance, and especially with the kids, is eat the rainbow every day. And I know that sounds weird, and it's like, what does that have to do with mindfulness? But look at your food and think about your food, and is this food that's going to nourish you, and how is it going to nourish you, and being grateful for it. That's something that can help you practice being in the moment, so that when you are in a more difficult situation, you can definitely feel relaxed. And exercising daily or moving daily, walking, being in nature, those are things that can really help your nervous system and really help you connect with yourself. And then, of course, in the moment, take time, take your deep breath, and be grateful. You know, things might not be going right. You might not be able to leave the house, or something may have gone wrong, but what are you grateful for? Maybe you have a home, maybe you have a car, maybe you have a beautiful family. Maybe you're able to use your hands to write or type and think that some people can't, and be grateful for those small little things. Though that's something that you could do every single day just as general routine, but you can also do in that moment when things are kind of getting you down. Teach your family how to recognize the things around you that are positive, because the more positive you pay attention to, the more positive you're going to see around you.
Wonderful words of advice from Shoshana Chaim. Thank you, Shoshana. And, just recently launched this book, I Am a Peaceful Goldfish. But as Corey said, much more than that, Shoshana. And we've had you on our show before. Great words of advice. So what my take now is I'm going to be eating the rainbow while I'm walking outside with my dog in nature and taking deep breaths while I'm doing it. And I'm going to recognize that this is good times. So, Shoshana, wonderful words of advice. Let's get out there. We've got wonderful weather. It's going to be cooling off a little bit more over the next week, but I think getting out now while the weather is good and getting better is so important. Okay, we're going to bring it back, Shoshana, but I think it's so important to be able to create some form of common language for parents and children. Sometimes parents get caught up in the day-to-day, and they might not even realize that your 4 or 5 or 10-year-old is just not quite understanding what you're communicating to them. So can you talk about trying to get down to that common language?
Yes, absolutely. That's something that I tried to create in the book, is an opportunity for parents and teachers to cue their students and children in the moment. So when you've practiced this over and over again, when the child's having a little bit of a breakdown in the grocery store, instead of just saying, take a deep breath, it's, let's pretend to be the dragon. Let's pretend to be the goldfish, whatever their favorite character is. And that way, kids understand imagination, and they're cued to take that deep breath, and you can do it together. And when the school and the home practice the same tools, then it becomes even stronger. But one of the things I really wanted to do in the book too is, although the book is intended, 0 to 6, it's really for the adults as well, for the parents, for the grandparents, because we need reminders as well.
No question about that. And I think you break it down to such a basic, simple way, manageable. It's not like, I think what Matt was saying earlier about, mindfulness, meditation, it seems big. And if it's big and it's uncomfortable, you're not going to do it. You break it down and make it so simple and so doable. So on that vein, can you provide us with some other tips for families in helping create a calmer family environment?
Yes, absolutely. So definitely, like I said before, movement, good nutrition, but sometimes you might want to create an opportunity in your schedule to just do mindfulness or do some kind of meditation or be grateful, have gratefulness journals. My daughter and I, before she goes to bed, we sit and she fills the whole page with things that are exciting that happen throughout the day, that she's grateful for, that are good, and that way she sees so much more of the positive too. So it doesn't have to be an individual task. It could be something that the family does together. And we've done everything from, sitting in a circle and meditating that worked when the kids were really little, and then they started to get too silly. So there's really something out there for everyone. But if you're in a situation where things are not working well for you, don't be afraid to reach out and find things outside of your comfort zone, outside of what you know, because there are things there to really help the the child or the adult to be able to feel calmer in a situation. There's things out there that not everybody knows about, and it could be really helpful.
That's a great words of advice. I love that concept of the gratefulness journals. I think that's a great idea. Shoshana, we want to thank you very much for taking some time here on a Saturday to be with you. And just repeat the name of your newly launched book.
Yes, thank you. So it's called I Am a Peaceful Goldfish, and it's sold everywhere that books can be found, inside stores and online. And it's on pre-order now, but as of Tuesday, April 13th, it is live and
nice.
Completely ready to go.
Well, congratulations on the book. I think it's going to be a real hit, and it's going to serve a real purpose for parents of young children. Even grandparents can learn from this. So, Shoshana, thank you so much for coming on Life Unrehearsed.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here.
All right. Corey, what do we have coming up next week?
Next week, she's witty, she's wise, she's compassionate, and she's sensible. Internationally best-selling author Barbara Coloroso is joining us to offer clear, manageable tips for building nurturing relationships with children and teens, even in a pandemic.
And are you having a little trouble sleeping out there? Well, sleep expert Tracy Bronstein's going to be on the show. She's going to teach us how to get some much-needed rest during these stressful times during this pandemic. And Tracy is full of great words of advice for those, like many people, that are maybe suffering from sleep deprivation. So thank you for tuning in to Life Unrehearsed. Many thanks to our listeners. And, of course, our technical producer, Jimmy G, on the board. You can catch us every Saturday on CJD 800 at 3 p.m.
Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Leanna Senior Transition Support, specialists in downsizing and seniors residences.